Hey friends, welcome back to the Waiting Well podcast. Wherever you are tuning in from, whether it's folding laundry or driving in the car, on a walk, or having coffee with me, thank you for letting me be a part of your day. I know so many of you are listening, walking the same tender road of trying to conceive, just longing and praying, and sometimes, or a lot of times, grieving. But we are always holding on to hope. And I just want to pause and remind you that you are not alone. Today's episode is a really exciting one because I am sharing something new that I've added to my own fertility journey as my husband and I are starting to try for baby number 3. I'm basically going to walk you through the things that I'm doing to try to get pregnant naturally. In a minute, I'm going to walk you through our whole fertility story because it has so many different layers to it. And you're probably like, okay, cool, baby number 3. But the reality is that it's not that simple. So I'm excited to dive into that. But this episode, we're going to highlight this fertility tool called Inito, and that is INITO. And it has given me so much clarity about my body, my cycle, and that has been the game changer that I'm adding into trying to conceive and why I feel like I do have more confidence this time than ever before, because it's more than just the science side. I want to share how I am pairing using tools like this with faith and how I feel like it's stewardship and walking this road with both scripture and stewardship as my guiding steps, as our guiding steps as we're trying to grow our family. So let's get into it and let me explain all the things that I'm doing as we are trying to grow our family again. Hey friends, welcome to the Waiting Well podcast. I am your host, Courtney Dunker, and you are here because your journey to motherhood has not looked the way that you always imagined. It has held heartbreak, loneliness, and questions like, why me, God? I'm here to remind you that you do not have to walk this road alone. And here we can wait well together. Each week, I will share faith-based encouragement from my own infertility journey, provide information from guest experts on navigating infertility and conceiving, powerful testimonies, and top tips on stewarding your health and emotional well-being through this demanding journey. So if you are ready to take back control of your life, find peace with God, join the in-between spaces, and thrive in your waiting season, then meet me at the well, girl. Grab that warm chocolate chip cookie, a little bit of unicorn juice or iced coffee. We've got some intentional growth to do. Let's get it. So if you are new here, I want to recap our journey to motherhood so far. And I want to kind of take you back. I think it's important to have perspective. So even if you are someone who's just trying for baby number 1, this episode is still going to be beneficial because these are things I wish I would have implemented or had or known about from day one. And that's why I feel so excited and confident about my strategy, prayerfully by the Lord's will to try for this baby, because I do feel like I have, years now of experience of what I was doing prior that was not working and what has worked and a little bit of combination. So my path to motherhood was not simple. For years, actually, my husband and I got married in 2015 in March. We flew 3 days later to New Zealand, where my husband was playing in professional basketball around the world. And so that was kind of where our next contract was for a few months. And so we got there, and me being a Christian woman who saved herself for marriage, I was totally, I don't know, I guess I just got into my head that it was super easy to get pregnant, which is kind of like LOL because of our journey now, looking back. But at the time, I had run out of my prescription birth control that I was taking to manage my cycles. Ever since I got my cycle, I've had terrible cycles. Me, my sister, my mom, we all had the same, just throwing up, passing out. It was like a mess. So anyway, I had run out of my prescription shortly after us getting married. And I didn't know how. I was very young. I didn't really know how to go about getting a prescription again in this new city with insurance. We didn't really know what our insurance situation was. And I was kind of just well, it doesn't really matter. If we got pregnant, great, And so we kind of had a scare. I think a few months in around June, I was like, oh my gosh, my period is late. And of course, I wasn't even thinking that weaning my body off of birth control would affect it or travel or change in life, right? All these things that I now have perspective on now. But at the time, I was just so naive and I was like, I must be pregnant. I took a test and it was negative. And I was like, Josh, I know I'm pregnant. Like, we need to go get a blood test. That's the most accurate way. And so we went and got a blood test. We get the results back. And I know we were so nervous to get the results, but also like, I think we were really excited too, like at the prospect of having a baby and starting our family. And I don't know, just kind of excited. And the test came back negative. And I remember both of us just being pretty disappointed, surprisingly disappointed, because at that point we weren't quote unquote trying to conceive. But I think that was the shift where we were like, actually, we do want to try to conceive intentionally. So at this point, throughout the summer, I downloaded all of the fertility apps to track my ovulation, track my menstrual cycle. And I was just trying to, follow the apps and try. And so we did that. And then, a year goes by and nothing has happened. And so at this point, when we came home, we decided to check in with my gynecologist to make sure that everything was okay. And if it wasn't okay, to take steps, because summers, so with my husband's basketball career, summers were the only time that we were in the US when I had insurance, when I could see a specialist or see a doctor and get the ball going for any kind of fertility stuff. So this had been over a year of nothing happening. And I honestly didn't really think anything of it. I feel like naively, I was kind of just like, we must not know how to do this. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm new to this whole world and maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe like I need to do some more research. And so we met with my gynecologist and they were basically like, okay, here's a medicated cycle. I think they gave me like Clomid and then a like timeline calendar of when we should try according, with the medication. And so we did that 1 or 2 months, I think. And then we went back overseas and we were overseas for that next year and nothing was progressing at that point because we were just focused on basketball. I wasn't really home to move forward with insurance and that kind of thing. And so then the next summer, we still weren't pregnant. And at this point, again, like when I say we're not pregnant, like we're not having any positive pregnancy tests at all, like no conception. And so obviously that's a little unusual with our age. Like we were a younger couple, both very active and healthy. And so we take the next step and they say, okay, we're going to refer you out to a fertility specialist. And then we saw a fertility specialist in San Diego. And over the course of the next 2 or so years, we did 2 IUIs. We did the tube test, like where they throw the dye through your tubes to make sure nothing is blocked. We did a laparoscopy surgery to make sure that there was no endometriosis. They did find some spotting of it and they took that out, but it wasn't like indicative of like why I was not getting pregnant. We did all the analysis on Josh's side, like nothing. There was no explanation at all through the process of a few years. 6 years go by and we're still not pregnant and still have not had one positive pregnancy test. And I have been through the ringer emotionally. I have been down to the very, depths with my spiritual journey with the Lord of just like trying to figure out who God is in the midst of this battle, because I knew him as like this sweet, gentle, amazing God who just had blessed my life. And then I was going through my very first huge battle as an adult. And it was trying to figure out like, what do I believe about your character? What do I believe about the word? And do I trust you, period, no matter what? And so this was our second failed IUI. Was pretty, I feel like, catastrophic for me. Josh was back overseas in Japan. I had stayed home living with my parents for a few weeks to do this cycle because, of course, everything takes so much time. You can't just like knock everything out in the 2 months that we're home every summer. And of course, like all the clinics have wait lists and things like that. So I do my second IUI. He's back overseas in Japan and it doesn't work. And I remember just like I went to this concert evangelistic event with my parents. They had tickets randomly and I was just like, okay, I'll meet you there. And Mercy Me was playing the song, Even If, I believe that's their song. And I just started bawling because I didn't, like it makes me emotional go back to that place. I didn't want those words to be true. I didn't want to say them because I knew that the minute that I believed them and said them and owned it, I was giving up the control that I convinced myself I had over my ability to conceive. And that control is something that I think is we think that we have a ton of control, and we don't. At the end of the day, it is God who gives life, and we are His creation. And so anyway, all of that to say, my parents were just both like covering, like I just had my hands in my knees and my head in my knees, and I was just sobbing, and they were just like laying over me and just praying, and we were all crying. And it was one of the most emotional moments of my life. And because I knew as parents, they wanted to do everything that they could to help me, to fix this situation and the heartbreak I was experiencing. But we knew that walking with the Lord, we don't always get to pick our stories. And so I felt like I had done all of the things that I could have known to do that was presented to me, but I didn't really have the experience, the wisdom, friends that had walked the path before me. I mean, I felt like I was the only one in my circle who was going through this, and no one in our families had gone through this. So I felt like I was kind of trying to just figure things out on my own. So tools like Anido are things that I never had exposure to, or I guess wisdom with. Like, it was just really the apps and then whatever the doctor said. So having tools, having naturopathic doctors who would be able to give me wisdom on what supplements I could, take, or even just looking at your blood work from a different lens instead of just like, oh, this is normal ranges. Well, normal ranges are not optimal ranges. And so there was just so much wisdom that I did not have during those first 6 years. So at this point, to kind of speed things up a little bit, we moved from Japan. That was his last year overseas. He retired early, and we moved to Hawaii, where he took on a sports ministry position in Maui. And when we were there, we felt the total release from the Lord to move forward with IVF. Now, even with IVF, I feel like all of these cycles, it would have been so beneficial to have a tool like Anido, because I could have been having that lab testing at home where I was monitoring things throughout the cycle to even give that extra layer of feedback instead of just kind of like be doing it blindly and waiting on lab work from, the doctor's office, waiting on what they say. Like, I feel like I could have done more on my end to know exactly where I was standing and be able to be a better advocate for myself. So that's why I feel like a tool like this is so powerful. It is literally a fertility monitor. So I'll kind of walk you through what it is, and then we'll finish out my story and how I'm using it now. This is the first fertility monitor that tracks 4 key fertility hormones on a single strip. So like a lot of times your ovulation kits will measure ovulation. This actually measures 4 key hormones in just 10 minutes. It's estrogen, it's LH, it's PDG, it's FSH. So that means instead of getting like a tiny piece of the puzzle, you're actually getting the full picture of your fertility, and it gives you that personalized data. So it's not just like this generic app, which I was working with for those 6 years. Like, I was just working with the Flow app. This was actually specific on, okay, these are high fertility days, but this is fertility peak, and then confirming ovulation. Again, looking back at my 6 years, I have no clue if I was actually ovulating. There was a lot of lifestyle habits. I'm still very into health and wellness, but like I was heavily into health and wellness. And I feel like there was probably like even just pre-workout supplements I was taking that were not beneficial to a trying to conceive journey, because I was so focused on a physique that I was trying to maintain. And having something like this would have been able to tell me if I was actually ovulating. Like, I truly wonder if back then I wasn't ovulating. Like, I don't know. And so just having that data, again, is just so powerful to know what's happening in your body that month and that cycle, to have that data, in between. So all that to say, that was kind of what I wish I had had at that point. And so when we went through IVF and had that release from the Lord, I was able to move forward, because at that point we didn't have any, like, I felt like I had no peace about moving forward. And finally we did. So during lockdown, during COVID, I took flights by myself, basically, because no one was allowed to fly. It was essential workers only, from Maui to Oahu. And I did our IVF treatment. It was over the span of a few months because of our cycle and situations that came up. And we did the mock trial thing, the mock like IVF round. And then we did the real one. And we ended up only getting 1 embryo from our whole cycle. So it was so crazy. Like, even the doctor said And that's the thing like about IVF is that you do learn some things that probably aren't showing up on your labs at this point. But one of the things that showed up in my IVF journey was that my eggs were basically like disintegrating when they tried to inseminate them with the sperm. And they said, they've like rarely ever seen that. So I'm like, oh, so I just don't have like good eggs. Like what? I don't know. So it's just kind of interesting that that's a part of it. And what, again, going back to, like this gets to tell me that I am still ovulating because that was almost like 4 years ago. So if I do want to continue to grow our family, a tool like this is going to help me continue to know that I am making progress in ovulating. And it's just a matter of like what other data I need to collect to maximize that work. So anyway, we move forward, we do IVF, and it was successful by the grace of God. We end up having our little Highland. That was 3 years ago, and 15 months postpartum. So after Highland, we never did birth control, any of the things to like prevent pregnancy. So I guess at that point, anytime we could have gotten pregnant, but after our 6-year journey, we were just kind of like, the chances of us getting pregnant are like slim to none, right? Or so we thought. And then 15 months postpartum, I'm still breastfeeding and I have an emotional morning. I'm like, I should just take a test just in case. Like, I know I've never had a positive natural pregnancy, but let's give it a whirl. And lo and behold, the Lord surprised us with praise. And that was just a total shock because we had just started working with a naturopath on my blood work. So instead of taking the IVF route again, because we didn't really have any embryos we had 0 embryos to go back to. So it would be a whole cycle again. We chose to invest in working with a naturopath that my brother and sister-in-law had worked with. So their journey had kind of started after us, and that's who they were working with. And I was just starting that first month, I was completing my supplements that she had recommended to work with. And again, like this would have been so valuable to have this tool of, because I could have known when I was ovulating, when my fertility peak days were, and this could have just been one more layer to learning my body that I could have brought to her in conversation. But I didn't have that. And by God's grace, I did have a surprise, natural conception with praise. But here we are, and after having praise, we're kind of like, okay, we need to take a minute. Parenting is a challenge in many ways, and I physically needed to give my body time to heal because we had 2 pregnancies in 2 years. So then I do give my body time to heal, but here we are. And praise is now 1.5 years, 18 months, and I am like, Lord, I would love to continue growing our family. I don't feel like we're complete yet. But how do you work through that as someone who has gone through the journey where you're like, I can't really pinpoint what did we do differently to have praise that we didn't do to have any babies prior to praise? Like Highland is IVF, praise was natural, and I have no clue what it was. That is why I am so passionate about tools like Anito and why I was like, I have to have this tool in my everyday arsenal, and I'm using it. Even like as a type B person who's not very good about like when I went through IVF and I was like, okay, take these meds, blah, blah, blah. I felt like I would really struggle to stay to a schedule because I'm just not type A. But you know what? I have been so passionate about sticking to my Anito. Like when it tells me to test, I am testing. So here's how it works. It is like this thing that you put on your phone, this little kind of, module tracker thing that you put on your phone. And it uses your camera on your phone lens. And the cool thing is like you get testing strips and a little pee cup. So on your test days, you wake up, you pee in your cup, you hold it in for 15 seconds, this little strip, and then you pop it into the thing that's sitting on your phone. And it takes, like a couple minutes I just let it do it while I go make my coffee. And it reads your test results, and it reads 4 different hormones, which is incredible. So then after, it will give you a little bubble that's like, okay, low fertility, high fertility, or peak fertility, or ovulation confirmed. And it is so cool because I get to know exactly where my cycle is, which it has been off, like the actual results that Anito is giving me, which is so clear because it's literally testing my urine, is on point, and it's actually different than what the app Flow is telling me. So what I noticed when I started implementing this every month, so I've used it the last 2 months, and both times my ovulation, like peak fertility, was a few days ahead of the Flow app. So if I was going by the Flow app, I'm missing my fertility window, like my peak fertility, or ovulation completely every time that I'm quote unquote trying. That's why I feel like the apps, the free apps, all that kind of stuff is just not the most bang for your buck if you are trying to conceive naturally, because you can have a tool like this that is going to confirm when it is and tell you exactly when to do it. So that's been really fun for me to learn more about my cycle and just see that difference alone. So now I can see my estrogen rising before ovulation. It signals that like my fertility window is opening. And then I can see that my LH surge clearly like is a really big part, and it doesn't just predict the ovulation, it actually confirms it by tracking your progesterone. So that's how it's confirming that you did have it, which is such a peace of mind. So before it was kind of working with like a 1 to 2 day guessing window with the Flow app. And now with Anito, it shows me that 6-day fertility window backed by my own hormones. So I can truly like plan with confidence. I'm excited to see how does this go with us? Like, I'm going to be using the supplements that my naturopath had recommended the last time that I had with Praise, because I just feel like they're just naturally great for you to be on when you're trying to conceive. And I've done an episode with Dr. Zen in the past. If you want to go through and look at that, you can go check on that. But I'm going to be pairing that with Anito, and I'm excited to see how long it takes us if we can conceive using this strategy. And if we can't, I can take this data straight to a specialist if we need to move forward into that in the future, because I have everything. Like I have my fertility window, I have my ovulation confirmed, all of that I can bring to the table and kind of say like, here's what I have been doing. And it's kind of like almost like a shortcut, because now we can move forward to what the actual problem is instead of like have this guessing of like, what is your cycle actually trying to do? So I thought that was really cool. And I think ultimately, like, it has taken away the frantic, like, did I miss it feeling of like your ovulation window? Like, did we actually hit it or not? Because you read research that talks about some people ovulate later or earlier or whatever. And this has really just removed that from me. I could take the information, I could pray over it, I can know what's going on biologically. Like even Josh does, he likes to be in on that as well. And it's really fun for us to be able to know with confidence how to steward the trying to conceive journey again. So from a biblical perspective and body stewardship, I want to pause here and share kind of that perspective, because I know some of you might be wondering, like, is it okay to use science when ultimately God is the giver of life? And I do believe, we've talked about this just actually the most recent episode, that you can use science without idolizing control. And that's why I just am so excited about the mission of Anito, because fertility issues are on the rise. I think with our nutrition, with our culture, with all the different toxins and things that are in the world, like there is so many statistics going up when it comes to women and families trying to conceive. And Anito is one of those companies that's doing something about it. And it's giving you a tool, it's giving you ability to be an advocate for yourself, to learn your own cycle. And so if you are coming off of birth control, or you are coming into a place of like trying to conceive, or you're even going through some sort of fertility journey, I think this is such a powerful tool to have in your hands, where you can actually read and know the data about your body as you do it. So Psalm 139:14 reminds us, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And that is where the balance comes in. Anito gives the information so I can be a wise steward of the body that he's entrusted to me, but I don't use it to play God. And honestly, like, you can't play God. Like, there's still an element of the Lord that's in this, right? Like, the Lord is the one creating. I am just using the knowledge and the awareness to conceive, which is the cool part. So I feel like it goes hand in hand with it. I get to use it with discernment and prayer. And I have been like, I feel like the last 2 months we've been trying. I have not gotten pregnant yet, but we have seen that I had peak fertility days. We have seen that I did ovulate, and we did try on those 2 times. So now it's just a process of, Lord, like, we are in surrender of your timing. We know that we are doing the right things according to the data. So we are just sitting in surrender of your timing of how we are going to conceive and when we are going to conceive. Because I'm using these tools as an act of wisdom. God has provided this to help me care for my body and understand my health. And ultimately, conception rests in his hands. So if you are listening today and you feel like you've been missing something, or maybe you're wasting cycles, or you have those like that same question of like, did we actually hit our ovulation window? Did I actually ovulate? I want to encourage you. You are not failing. You are not forgotten, and you are not walking this journey alone. God is still writing your story, even if it looks different than what you hoped. I want to challenge you to get a tool like Anito into your monthly cycle, into your monthly routine, because it will change the game for you. The Anito Starter Pack is actually available for just $89 with the code TheWaitingWell at anito.com. That's INITO.com. And then use the code TheWaitingWell. And what that's going to give you, the starter pack, is essentially everything that you need for your phone, the little thing that you pop on your phone, and then your testing sticks and your pee cup. So that's your starter pack, and actually gives you quite a bit for like, I feel like I got to test quite a bit the first month, because it wants to get to regulate and get to know your body and all of that, which is so powerful. So that is, I highly recommend getting that. And then you are getting to know your body, and you're able to know exactly what is going on and be able to move forward with your conceiving journey. I'm super excited. I'm really hopeful, I guess is the best way to describe, that this will be a game changer in helping us actually conceive. Because I would just love the journey of being like, we did try with awareness, and like I can literally track it down to ovulate. Like that would be my dream, right? It's like we did conceive by knowing exactly when we ovulated and when it happened. And I'm hopeful that God is going to use Anito to allow us to conceive naturally again, because this tool is really the best way that I can go about stewarding our conception journey while still honoring the Lord's timing and being submitted to his plans for us. So please check the show notes. You will see the starter pack link down there. You can put in the code TheWaitingWell, and you will get a discount. You'll get $89 for your starter pack, and it's going to be such a powerful part of your journey. So highly, highly, highly recommend. And thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that me sharing like what I'm doing, I'm praying, number one. Number two, I am focusing on using Anito like every single month. I'm tracking everything. And then number three, I am just staying in a state of surrender and trusting that God's timing is perfect, and he knows our family and our desires better than I do. And because of that, I can just rest in peace. So I hope that this encourages you and challenges you as you are navigating your trying to conceive journey. And I really, really do pray that you choose to put Anito in your hands. And when you do, I pray that the Lord would just bless your womb and bless your cycles, that you would be able to learn something about your cycle, that you would be able to conceive from your cycle, and that it would just be a game changer as much as it is for me. Until next time, my friend, keep waiting well, trusting fully, and remembering that even here in the waiting, God is good. I am so glad that you chose to meet me at the well today. If this episode inspired you, changed you, or blessed you in some way, I would love for you to do one of two things. First, head to Apple Podcast at that link below and leave a review. And second, screenshot this episode and share it in your stories, tagging me at Sown with Strength, or text it on over to a friend that this episode might bless. These are the number one ways to thank me. I am truly so grateful to be building out this community, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. Until then, go get a workout done for me, and I will see you right back here at the Waiting Well podcast.